The marriage was annulled. She randomly married the security guard. Unexpectedly, he was a hidden millionaire. The chandelier sparkled above Victoria Hayes, its countless crystals casting fragmented rainbows across the grand ballroom. Roses, pale pink and white, adorned every table, the scent delicate yet overwhelming. It was supposed to be perfect, but perfection was a cruel illusion. The murmurs had begun, low whispers rippling through the crowd, growing louder with each passing second. At the altar, Tommy Blackwell stood tall, his custom-tailored tuxedo as flawless as his carefully polished image, but his eyes cold, detached. The priest hesitated, voice trailing off as silence fell over the room. Tommy's jaw tightened. Then, with a calmness that sliced deeper than rage, he stepped back from Victoria, his voice echoing through the microphone. "I can't do this." A collective gasp swept across the guests. Victoria's heart stopped. The blood drained from her face as she searched his eyes, desperate for an explanation, something, anything to make sense of the nightmare unraveling before her. She whispered, barely audible, "Tommy, what are you doing?" He didn't meet her gaze. Instead, he turned toward the crowd, speaking as if she weren't even there. "This marriage, it's a mistake. I've come to realize that Victoria is not suited for my family's legacy." Another gasp. Someone's glass clinked too loudly against a table. Victoria's breath caught, her veil trembling as the weight of his words crushed her chest. Not suited? She felt every eye in the room burning into her, the judgment palpable. Her father, seated in the front row, looked as pale as she felt. "But Tommy," she choked, voice trembling. We've been together for 3 years. I love you." Tommy's lips pressed into a thin line, his face impassive. "This isn't personal, Victoria. It's just business. My family has standards." "Standards?" A cruel voice whispered in her head. "You're not enough for him. You never were." The murmur turned to full conversations, guests whispering, reporters already scribbling headlines. Victoria felt her knees buckle, the weight of shame pressing hard. She should run, hide, anything to escape the humiliation. But her feet wouldn't move. At the edge of the room, Jason Cross watched in silence, his broad shoulders tense beneath his plain black security uniform. He had seen his share of extravagant events working security at elite venues like this. But this was cruelty. Victoria's trembling figure was all too familiar, reminding him of pain he'd once known, pain no wealth could erase. When she finally broke, clutching the folds of her wedding dress and fleeing down the marble aisle, he didn't think. He followed. The staff corridor was dimly lit, far from the opulence of the ballroom. Victoria stood against the wall, veil discarded, the train of her dress pooling around her feet. Her sobs were quiet but raw, echoing off the cold tiles. Jason hesitated. He wasn't supposed to intervene, but something in him couldn't turn away. He cleared his throat gently. "Miss?" She startled, wiping her face, mascara streaking in dark trails down her pale cheeks. "Please, I just want to be alone." Jason nodded, but he didn't leave. Instead, he lowered his voice, calm and steady. "I'm sorry for what happened back there. No one deserves to be treated like that." Her lip trembled as she shook her head. "You don't understand." She choked on her words, voice breaking. "I've lost everything. He said I wasn't good enough. And now everyone." Her breath hitched, pain radiating from every word. Jason stepped closer, careful not to overstep. "You didn't lose everything," he said softly. "You lost a man who clearly never deserved you." She looked up then, eyes red-rimmed and disbelieving. "I don't even know you. Why do you care?" Jason held her gaze, steady and sincere. "Because I know what it feels like to be told you're not enough. And I know that whoever told you that was wrong." The silence stretched between them. For the first time that night, Victoria felt something other than pain. It was small, barely noticeable. But it was there. A flicker of hope. And it had come from a stranger. Outside, the rain had begun to fall, the once beautiful wedding now a scandal on every guest's lips. But in the quiet of that hallway, for the first time since her heart had shattered, Victoria Hayes didn't feel completely alone. The morning headlines were brutal. "Heiress left at the altar. Tommy Blackwell calls off wedding in front of hundreds." "Not good enough. Victoria Hayes humiliated by billionaire fiancé." Victoria sat curled on her mother's old couch, the soft glow of the TV reflecting the same words she had been trying to avoid. Her phone buzzed endlessly with messages, some from friends, most from curious gossipers wanting the latest scandal. The wedding dress, now a crumpled reminder of her humiliation, lay in a heap across the room. "You're not enough." The words echoed louder than anything. Her face burned with shame. Every guest, every reporter, everyone had seen it. And worse, they pitied her. A soft knock at the door startled her. She opened it slowly, blinking when she saw Jason standing there, his usual calm expression in place. "Jason?" she whispered, voice hoarse from crying. He held out a brown paper bag. "You didn't eat yesterday. Thought you might need this." Inside was a sandwich and a bottle of water, simple, thoughtful. Her throat tightened as she stared at the bag, unsure why his kindness struck her so deeply. Jason shifted, clearly uncomfortable but sincere. "I'm not here to bother you. Just wanted to check if you were okay." Victoria managed a broken laugh. "Do I look okay?" Jason hesitated, then shook his head. "No, but you're still standing. That means something." Her chest ached at those words. Still standing, barely. Later that evening, Victoria sat by the window, rain tapping gently against the glass. The ache in her chest hadn't dulled. She thought of Jason's quiet words. "You're still standing." But how long could she endure this? Her eyes drifted toward her phone, another notification lighting up the screen. A photo of Tommy, arm in arm with a model, splashed across a gossip site with the cruel caption. "Blackwell moves on quickly. Clearly she wasn't enough." Victoria's stomach twisted. The shame, it was unbearable. A knock came again. "Jason." His expression was unreadable, but his eyes softened when he saw her tear-streaked face. "I don't mean to keep showing up, but you looked like you could use someone to talk to." She wiped her face, embarrassed but too tired to push him away. "Everyone's laughing at me," she whispered. Jason's jaw tightened. "No, they're wrong." Victoria let out a hollow laugh. "Really? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm the punchline of the year." Jason's voice dropped lower, gentler. "You don't have to be." Her brow furrowed. "What does that mean?" Jason took a breath, as if weighing his next words carefully. "Marry me." Victoria blinked, convinced she'd heard him wrong. "What?" Jason stepped closer, his voice steady but sincere. "I'm serious. If proving you're not some cast-off is what it takes to silence them, then marry me. No expectations, no strings. Just a chance for you to start over without him defining you." She stared at him, heart pounding. "Jason, I can't just marry you. We don't even know each other." His gaze softened, unwavering. "I know you're kind and strong, even when you feel broken. I know you deserve more than the way he made you feel. That's enough for me." Silence filled the room, the storm outside echoing her chaotic thoughts. The humiliation, the headlines. But here was someone offering her not pity, but dignity. "What do you have to lose?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "When?" Jason exhaled, his shoulders relaxing as if she'd just lifted a weight from him too. "Tomorrow." The next morning was gray and drizzling. The world felt muted, as if the rain knew the weight of the decision Victoria had made. The courthouse was small, quiet, with only the clerk and a witness present. Victoria wore a simple ivory dress, not the elaborate lace gown meant for a grand audience. Just simple. Jason stood beside her, calm, his black suit fitting perfectly despite its modest design. There were no guests, no reporters, no flash photography. Just two people. "Do you, Victoria Hayes, take Jason Cross to be your lawfully wedded husband?" The words felt surreal. But when Jason's hand gently brushed hers, steady and warm, it grounded her. "I do," she whispered. Jason's turn came, his voice strong, unwavering. "I do." After the ceremony, the rain had stopped when they stepped outside. No fanfare, no attention. Just quiet. Victoria clutched the simple gold band now resting on her finger, the reality of it sinking in. She glanced at Jason. "Why did you do this?" Jason met her gaze, voice calm as ever. "Because you needed someone, and maybe I needed someone too." She didn't press for more. But a question lingered in her mind. Who exactly was Jason Cross? There was a quiet strength in him, something composed and controlled. But she didn't know anything about his past. And he never offered. Not yet. The rain had finally cleared, leaving behind a crisp autumn chill. Victoria adjusted the sleeves of her sweater, gazing around Jason's modest apartment for the first time since their courthouse wedding. It was clean, almost too clean. Minimalist. Bare walls, a single bookshelf, and a worn leather couch. The place felt like Jason himself, quiet, guarded. She set her suitcase by the door, heart still heavy from the whirlwind of the past few days. Married. It felt so strange. Jason emerged from the small kitchen, 2 mugs in hand. "Chamomile," he said, placing one gently in front of her. "You look like you could use something calming." Victoria blinked, surprised by the gesture. "Thank you. That's thoughtful." Jason offered a small nod, settling into the armchair across from her. Silence lingered, comfortable but distant. Victoria cleared her throat, tracing the rim of her mug. "I'm not sure what happens next," she admitted softly. Jason's gaze met hers, calm and sincere. "We figure it out, together." The first few days were a quiet dance of adjustment. Jason had offered her the bedroom, insisting on taking the pull-out couch despite her protests. They navigated the routines cautiously, shared breakfasts, polite conversations, but always a lingering distance. Until the night she caught him cooking. Victoria stepped into the kitchen to find Jason at the stove, sleeves rolled up, carefully stirring a pot of tomato soup. Grilled cheese sandwiches sizzled on the pan beside him. Her heart twisted. "Jason, you didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said simply. "You had a long day." Victoria bit her lip, nodding. She didn't have the energy to argue. Later that evening, as they ate on the couch watching a nature documentary, she realized something. For the first time in weeks, the ache in her chest felt a little lighter. It wasn't just the cooking. Little things kept happening. The heater fixed before she mentioned it, her favorite tea suddenly appearing in the cabinet. But the most unexpected moment came when she overheard a hushed phone call. Jason's voice was low, serious, speaking to someone about her mother's overdue medical bills. She hadn't told him. The next day, when she visited the hospital, the receptionist confirmed it. An anonymous payment had been made, clearing most of the outstanding balance. Victoria stood frozen, heart pounding. It had to be Jason. That night, as they washed dishes together, she finally confronted him. "Jason, my mom's hospital bill, was that you?" He didn't deny it. Instead, he dried his hands, leaning back against the counter, watching her with that steady gaze. "You've had enough on your plate. I wanted to help." Her throat tightened. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jason hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I didn't want you to feel like you owed me something." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "No one's ever done something like that for me before." Jason offered a rare, soft smile. "You deserve more than the way you've been treated, Victoria." And for the first time since the wedding, Victoria felt something stir. Not just gratitude. Something deeper. The shift between them was subtle but undeniable. They began sharing meals more often, lingering at the table to talk about things beyond the day's routine. Jason spoke about his love for old classic cars and how he used to work with his hands before moving into security work. Victoria found herself sharing pieces of her past too, her love for painting, her dreams of traveling the world before life had taken over. The walls between them slowly cracked. Until one afternoon at a small cafe. They had stopped for coffee after Victoria's volunteer shift at a local shelter. The room was warm, filled with the hum of soft conversations and the scent of freshly ground beans. That's when she heard it. 2 women whispering from the corner booth. "That's her, isn't it? The one Blackwell dumped. I heard she married some security guard for attention." Victoria stiffened, her face flushing with shame. Jason noticed instantly. He set down his cup, gaze hardening as he met their stares across the cafe. Calm, controlled. But the steel in his voice was unmistakable. "Do you make a habit of judging people you don't know?" The women's eyes widened before they muttered apologies and quickly left. Victoria stared at Jason, heart pounding. "You didn't have to do that." He shrugged. "I wanted to." Her voice softened. "Why?" Jason's expression turned serious, his guard dropping just slightly. "Because I know what it's like to be underestimated, to have people assume you're nothing. But you," he paused, searching for the words, "you're so much more than they see." The tension between them shifted, no longer awkward but charged. Victoria's heart raced. But Jason looked away, as if afraid to let the moment linger too long. Later that evening, as the rain drummed softly against the windows, Victoria found him standing by the living room window, lost in thought. The city lights reflected in his eyes, distant and heavy. "Jason," she whispered, stepping closer. He didn't move. "I don't usually talk about my past," he admitted finally, voice quieter than she'd ever heard it. Victoria waited, giving him space to continue. I used to think if I kept my head down, stayed invisible, people wouldn't have a reason to judge me. She exhaled softly. Is that why you're so guarded? Jason nodded. But I was wrong. His voice thickened. Because the truth is, no matter how much you hide, there will always be people who try to tear you down. Victoria reached for his hand then, fingers brushing his gently. But you didn't let it break you. Jason finally met her gaze, and for the first time she saw it. The pain, the vulnerability, and the strength. He hadn't just saved her that night. He'd been saving himself too. In that moment, the walls between them finally began to crumble. The sun dipped low beyond the city skyline, casting a warm amber glow through the apartment windows. Victoria hummed softly as she folded laundry, the quiet routine bringing a rare sense of peace. Jason had left early that morning, mentioning business matters without much detail. He was always so private. But that privacy only made her more curious. As she gathered his shirts from the laundry basket, something unusual caught her eye, a crisp envelope tucked into the pocket of his blazer. It wasn't curiosity. It was instinct. She unfolded the paper, eyes scanning the letterhead embossed with Crosswell Holdings, Inc. The words blurred for a moment, her pulse quickening. Crosswell. She knew that name. Everyone did. It was one of the largest private investment firms on the East Coast. Jason wasn't just a security guard. He was a Crosswell. That night, Victoria sat at the kitchen counter, her laptop open. Crosswell Holdings. The search results filled the screen instantly. Jason Crosswell, CEO. A photo appeared, him in a tailored navy suit, standing at a podium during a charity event. His face was calm, professional, but unmistakably the man she had married. The man who slept on the pull-out couch. The man who made her soup when she was sick. Why didn't he tell me? But as she read on, the pieces began to click. Betrayed by former business partners, withdraws from public spotlight, resigns from day-to-day operations. Her breath caught as she scrolled further, seeing the string of headlines. Millionaire Crosswell steps away after scandal. Billionaire goes private following personal loss. Victoria sat back, the weight of it pressing on her chest. Jason hadn't just been avoiding wealth, he'd been hiding from it. And yet he had shown nothing but kindness, never once flaunting who he really was. Later that night, Jason returned home, the usual calm in his expression. Victoria noticed the tension in his shoulders. He kissed her temples softly, murmuring, "Long day. I'll be in the study for a bit." She nodded, though her mind was racing. The door to his study remained slightly ajar. That's when she heard it. Jason's voice, lower than usual, speaking into the phone. "Tell the board I'll review the merger details tomorrow." "No, I don't want press coverage. Keep it private. Yes, the donations to the shelter are already finalized. No need for my name on the press release." The pieces fell into place. Victoria waited until Jason emerged from the study, his sleeves rolled up, hair slightly tousled. "Jason," she began, voice softer than she'd expected. He paused, sensing the shift in her tone. "What is it?" She held up the letter. "This, Crosswell Holdings." His face remained unreadable, but his jaw tightened ever so slightly. She stepped closer, searching his eyes. "You're a millionaire?" Jason exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "Yes." A beat passed. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jason hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Because I wanted you to see me. Not my last name, not the money, just me." Victoria swallowed hard, processing his words. "But you," she gestured around the modest apartment. "You live like this when you could have anything." Jason's gaze softened, his voice raw. "Everything I had, everything I was, became tied to the money. People stopped seeing me. I lost friends. I lost trust. So I stepped away. I needed to remember who I was without all of it." Her heart twisted. "And when you married me? Was that part of this, hiding?" Jason shook his head immediately. "No. Victoria, when I offered to marry you, it wasn't about hiding. It was because you deserved someone who saw your worth, who stood by you when no one else did." She blinked back, the tears threatening to fall. "So, all this time you've been helping me, paying for my mom's bills, the groceries, the medical visits." Jason nodded, voice gentle. "Yes, but not because I thought you needed saving. I did it because I care." Victoria felt her heart swell, conflicted but not angry. Just grateful. She could see it in his eyes. The truth. The sincerity. The way he had always looked at her, never expecting anything in return. The silence lingered, not awkward but heavy with unspoken emotion. Victoria took a step closer, placing her hand on his chest. "You never needed to hide from me, Jason. You're more than what's in your bank account. I see you. I always did." Jason's breath caught, his hand instinctively covering hers. "I was afraid," he whispered, voice cracking. "Afraid you'd think I was just like him. Like Tommy." She shook her head, her eyes softening. "You're nothing like him." And in that moment, the final wall between them crumbled. Jason cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Victoria, I didn't expect to feel this way. But you've made me want something more than just security." Her heart pounded as their foreheads touched. A whispered confession. "I think I'm falling for you." And when Jason closed the gap between them, pressing his lips to hers, it wasn't wealth or status or secrets that mattered anymore. It was love. Pure, honest. And finally real. The city lights blinked softly beyond the windows, casting silver reflections along the hardwood floor. Victoria sat curled on the edge of the couch, her thoughts a storm she couldn't silence. Jason was working late again, another business meeting he hadn't elaborated on. It wasn't the meetings that bothered her. It was the fact that this world, his world, felt like it was swallowing her whole. The articles hadn't stopped since the truth about Jason's wealth had leaked. Rumors swirled. Speculations about their marriage, whispers about how she'd tricked him into marrying her. And then there was Tommy. She hadn't expected to see him. But there he was, standing in line at the cafe she often visited after volunteering. Tommy Blackwell. Ah. Sharp suit, smug smile. The same man who had shattered her at the altar. "Victoria," he drawled, stepping closer as she froze with her coffee in hand. "I heard the news. Congratulations on your upgrade." Her stomach twisted, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." Tommy's grin widened, mocking. "Oh, come on. Marrying a security guard who turned out to be a billionaire. What a plot twist." He leaned in, voice dropping. "Tell me, Victoria, was it a calculated move? Or just blind luck that you landed yourself across well?" Her fingers clenched around the cup. "Don't let him get to you." She turned to leave, but Tommy's final words hit harder. "You don't belong in his world. People like you never do." That evening, Jason returned home later than usual, the tension in his shoulders unmistakable as he loosened his tie. Victoria was quiet, sitting at the table, her mind still reeling from Tommy's cruel words. Jason noticed immediately. "Something wrong?" She shook her head. But Jason wasn't the kind of man to be deceived by silence. He sat across from her, leaning closer. "Victoria, talk to me." Her voice trembled. "Jason, do you ever wonder if you made a mistake? With me?" His brow furrowed. "What? Of course not. Where is this coming from?" She hesitated before whispering, "I saw Tommy today." Jason's expression darkened instantly. "What did he say?" She inhaled shakily. "That I don't belong in your world. And maybe he's right." Silence stretched between them. Jason exhaled deeply, gaze softening. "Come with me," he said quietly. Jason led her to the bookshelf in his study. From the highest shelf he pulled down a small wooden box. Inside, Victoria saw neatly folded letters and a worn photograph of a younger Jason, arm in arm with a stunning woman. Her stomach dropped. Jason spoke before she could ask. "Her name was Cassandra. We were engaged, years ago." Victoria swallowed, her voice barely above a whisper. "What happened?" Jason's hand tightened around the edge of the box. "I thought she loved me, but it turned out she loved what came with my name, my money, the influence." His voice broke slightly. "She convinced me to start a business venture in her name. I trusted her completely. And when the deal fell through, when I lost everything, she walked away." Victoria felt her heart crack for him. "I'm so sorry, Jason." He shook his head, closing the box carefully. "That's why I left everything behind. The wealth, the public image. I needed to know if someone could love me for who I was, not what I had." Tears welled in Victoria's eyes. "I do, Jason. I swear." But he wasn't done. He stepped closer, voice rough with vulnerability. "That's why I married you, Victoria. Because I saw someone who didn't care about money. Someone who stood there, humiliated, and still held her head high. You made me believe in love again." And yet, Tommy's words lingered. Later that night, as Jason slept, Victoria lay awake, staring at the ceiling. You don't belong in his world. The lavish gala invitations, the constant press coverage, the wealth. This wasn't her life. It never would be. The next morning, Victoria packed a small overnight bag, heart pounding with every item she folded. Jason was out. Out. She couldn't do this anymore. Not because she didn't love him, but because she wasn't sure she deserved him. A handwritten note trembled in her hand as she left it on the kitchen counter. When Jason returned that evening, the silence felt wrong. His heart sank the moment he saw the note resting on the marble counter. Jason, I love you, but I can't be part of this world. I'm not like them. I'll only hold you back. Please don't look for me. You deserve better. Victoria. The paper crumpled slightly in his grip as he exhaled shakily. He had lost her, but not because she didn't love him, because she didn't believe in herself. And he refused to let that stand. Jason didn't hesitate. He wouldn't let her walk away. Not again. It wasn't wealth that defined him, and it certainly didn't define her. Grabbing his keys, Jason knew exactly where to find her. And this time he was going to prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that she belonged not just in his world, but in his heart. The grand ballroom of the Croswell Foundation shimmered with golden light, reflecting off the crystal chandeliers above. Soft classical music filled the space, mingling with the murmur of guests dressed in their finest evening attire. Yet the event wasn't just another lavish affair. Tonight was different. Jason stood near the edge of the stage, his hands clasped as he watched the crowd. But his focus wasn't on the attendees, the photographers, or even the billionaires in attendance. It was on her. Her. Victoria. She stood across the room, speaking softly with a woman from the charity committee, her grace effortless in the simple navy gown she wore. But Jason could see the tension in her eyes, the same flicker of doubt she'd worn since the day she left that note. She still didn't believe she belonged. And tonight he was going to change that. The music softened as Jason stepped onto the stage. A hush fell over the crowd, the spotlight casting a warm glow around him. Clearing his throat, he began, voice steady but thick with emotion. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we come together not just to support a cause, but to honor someone whose strength has inspired me more than words can express. Victoria's brows furrowed, confused as her gaze met his across the room. Jason continued. This gala is dedicated to the Hayes Family Foundation, a charity supporting local shelters and underprivileged families, founded in memory of Henry Hayes, a man who dedicated his life to kindness, compassion, and integrity. Victoria's breath caught. Her father's name. Jason's eyes softened as he looked directly at her. But tonight isn't just about the past. It's about the present, and the woman who has reminded me what true strength looks like. Gasp rippled through the crowd as he gestured toward her. Victoria, you taught me that wealth isn't measured in dollars or success. It's measured in the people who stand by us when we feel unworthy, who remind us, even in our darkest moments, that we are enough. Tears welled in her eyes, the wall she had built around her heart finally starting to crack. Jason's voice softened, filled with vulnerability. You didn't just save me from my own fears. You taught me how to love again. And tonight, I want to prove that love isn't bound by mistakes or past pain. It's about choosing each other over and over. The audience fell completely silent as Jason stepped down from the stage. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box. The air felt electric as he approached Victoria, the crowd parting for him like waves. He sank to one knee. Victoria's hands trembled, lips parted as she stared down at him. Jason, what are you doing? She whispered. His voice, steady yet raw, echoed through the ballroom. I married you once out of a moment of desperation. But tonight, Victoria, I'm asking you again, not because of scandal or pain, but because you are the love of my life. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear the whispers surrounding them. Jason continued, voice thick with emotion. I've seen your heart, your courage, and I'm asking you to give me the honor of being your husband, this time not for appearances or to prove a point, but because I can't imagine a future without you. A tear slipped down Victoria's cheek. Her walls, the fear, the self-doubt, the pain collapsed all at once. She nodded, voice breaking. Yes, Jason, yes. The crowd erupted in applause as he slid the ring onto her finger. But Victoria didn't care about the cameras, the wealth, or the headlines. She cared about him, and the way he looked at her, as if she was his entire world. Later that night, after the guests had left and the ballroom quieted, Jason led Victoria out to the terrace. The city stretched before them, lights twinkling like distant stars. Above them, fairy lights dangled, casting a soft golden glow over the terrace. They stood in silence, his arms wrapped gently around her waist as they swayed to music only they could hear. Victoria rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "I was so scared," she whispered. Jason pressed a kiss to her temple. "I know," he murmured. "But you never had to be. You've always belonged, not because of who I am, but because of who you are." She lifted her gaze, tears sparkling in her eyes. "I love you, Jason. I always have, even when I was afraid." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And I love you, Victoria, not just for who you are now, but for who you've always been." And as they kissed beneath the soft glow of the lights, the world finally felt right. No wealth. Fun. No scandals. Just two hearts, healed, whole, and finally at peace. Together. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey of love, healing, and second chances. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a reminder that true love always finds a way. Subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more beautiful tales of hope, resilience, and emotional connections that will warm your soul. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next inspiring story. Until next time, stay inspired and keep believing in the power of love.